Okay, it looks like we are live, and I am going to try to change some settings here because this is working. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is doing okay today. I do not see what I'm looking for, but I'm just going to continue and I'm going to talk a little bit and just let you know who I am because I haven't even said that yet, right? So, hello, I am doing double duty, but I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Lisa Marie Eard. I am the collegiate success coach with Campus Bound GPS. And Campus Bound GPS is a program where we help students and parents navigate the college application process. And I am now public. Yes, that's what I'm looking to see. Make sure that we are streaming live and getting everyone on board. So I'm just going to repeat what I just said because we were not streaming to everyone just now. Here we go. So I am back. This is Lisa Marie Eard with Campus Bound GPS, where we help students and parents navigate the college application process. And October Tips is where we're at. It's the month of October, and October Tips is a community service project for Campus Bound GPS. And again, I said my name is Lisa Marie Eard. I am the collegiate success coach for Campus Bound GPS, and I am super excited. October Tips started in 2016, and we did not go live every single day. We've been doing it every single day in the month of October. We started 2 years ago. So we're going to try to keep that streak going. So guess what? We made it to day two. 2 straight days coming to you live, providing tips on the college application process. And this year, I want to, hi, Miranda Wheeler. Yes, it's working. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Okay, so um, I wanted to say that we've been doing this for 7 years, and it's been a blessing. I love sharing information. I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, the college application process can cause stress. It can cause anxiety. It can drive not only students, but parents bonkers, trying to figure out this, trying to figure out that. And that's why we're here, right? We are here to assist, guide, coach you through the process. There's so many parts and pieces, and that's why I think October Tips is really important. We have several guests throughout the year, and you have me as throughout the month, and you have me as well to just speak on different topics and just provide a tip because one tip can go a long way. Um, with that said, I want to introduce, and I'm going to call her now the resident campus bound GPS FAFSA expert, Pamela Sams. Pamela Sams is the financial advisor for Jackson Sams Wealth Strategies. She has been a friend to Campus Bound GPS for many years, providing excellent information, and she is back again. Why? Because FAFSA is now open. That was our tip from yesterday. FAFSA is now open. So welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me once again, Lisa. I think I've been participating all 7 years, right?
Close, I think maybe
Close to it.
six. I think it's six.
Yeah,
Close.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate you bringing me back on, like you said earlier, uh, really trying to diffuse some of the stress in this process because it can be quite stressful for people, for parents, really trying to get funding for college for their students. And the FAFSA is the first step in the process to really figuring out the affordability, number one, but number two, really just saying how much am I able to get in terms of financial aid as well. So I'm glad to be back and impart some knowledge on us this whole process.
And your tip for today is key changes to FAFSA.
Yeah. Exactly. And I will do my usual tips, but the changes that I think that most people need to know is that it doesn't have to be a daunting task. And it was actually in the past, it was 108 different questions um, that you needed to answer on the FAFSA. So the big change this year is really what they're trying to do is simplify the form. So October 2022, which we're here right now, you're just going to have 36 questions to answer. And so they're making the process a lot easier. So you're not on there, hours trying to fill out a FAFSA form. So that's one of the big changes, the key changes that I've seen. Um, that's going to happen this year is taking it down from those 108 different questions down to 36. And so that's the big one. Applicants can select their particular roles, either the different options, so either you're a parent or you're a preparer or you're a student. Before, you had to either go in as either one, either a parent or student, not so much preparers, but they're giving you filling out information where you can select the roles in the application process, which hadn't been in the forms before. So that's one of the other key changes that's coming down the pike. Not to say that this is really relevant to most of your listeners, hopefully not, but the financial aid eligibility for students before they had the drug, what they call drug conviction exclusion. So now with the new FAFSA form that's available, drug convictions will no longer affect your eligibility to receive financial aid, federal student financial aid. However, it really doesn't mean that you won't have to answer questions, of course, prior to any drug related arrest or things like that. But if you had some misdemeanor related to that, it doesn't automatically now kick you out in terms of being eligible for financial aid through the federal program. That was one of the things that they had in previous years. Same thing with selective service. So when you filled out the FAFSA form before, um, male students were required to register for selective service. So you can still register for selective service through FAFSA form, but it's not a requirement that you have to have selective service selected in order to get federal student aid. So that's one of the things so those are some of the key changes that are happening in the program. Of course, a little bit later on in the conversation, I'll talk about some of the really big changes that are coming down the pike. Not this year, but 2023, 24, you'll start to see some goodies that they're going to put into the FAFSA process that I believe will be able to help some of the parents through the process, but also increase the eligibility for aid.
Awesome. Awesome. So, one of the things that I want to make clear, and I mentioned it yesterday, is all parents, all students. Well, let me go back because you
Mm-hmm.
you said something.
Yeah,
Two things I want to say. So you mentioned the word preparer. One
correct.
thing I mentioned yesterday was FAFSA is a free application and you shouldn't have to pay for it. So that checkbox for preparer,
Mm-hmm.
that can you define the role of preparer?
Yeah, and I mean sometimes just like with taxes, you'll have a preparer. More than likely, like you said, they will charge a fee. You shouldn't ever have to do that. You may have someone who fills it out for you that's not maybe a parent or student. Maybe a school counselor is helping you fill it out. Somebody that's not particularly related to the student and or parent, that would be the preparer. If you, like you said, Lisa, if you are paying for this, you really want to consider reconsider, because it's now that they've simplified it to 36 questions versus 108, you really probably should not have to have a preparer do it for you. It's really a step by step, follow the prompts type of thing, and then do this, do that, versus having to have some a preparer prepare for you. But that would be a situation, but never, like you said, have to pay for the free, that's what it is. It's called the free full application process. So that's what the prepared role would be. But really think reconsider if somebody is asking you for a fee to fill out the FAFSA form.
And as a reminder, like I said, I mentioned this yesterday as well. It is a form that is to be filled out by both parent and student. And is it both parents, one parent?
Hmm. For the most part, if you are whatever your tax situation is going to basically dictate. So if you are married filing jointly, they are requesting that both parents fill out their respective portion of the FAFSA form. If you're head of household, then that's how they would go. Or if you are divorced and you claim the student 1 year and then your ex claims the student the next year, then that's the way the process would work. Because what the FAFSA form does is that they will take the information. They have this tool now where you just put in, if you have filed your federal taxes, they will just take the information from your IRS um, uh, portal, basically, and they'll just take that information and pre-populate the information that needs to be done in the FAFSA. So whatever your tax return had dictated in that is basically how their form is going to, um, well, basically fill out the prospective proponents that are in there. So if you marry filing jointly and both parents are on that tax return, both parents are going to be represented in the FAFSA form.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to pull aside for a little bit so that you
Mhm.
can go through your tips.
Yeah,
And then I may interject every now and again, or if
of course.
someone is out there and you have a question, please bring the questions on and let's hear what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's a simple process. Like I said, now it's going to be even more simplified with 36 versus 108. But before filling out the form, I always go through this every year. Is really make sure you have all of your records in place. You don't want to sit down and then you have to start digging for information. Make sure you have all of the for the most part, the tax return information will be taken in from the IRS tool. But if you have other documents that you need, bank statements, your savings accounts, checking accounts, because they are going to ask for records of money that is earned. So you need to put that in there as well. So, like I said, the IRS data retrieval tool, that's what it's called. I was not getting the term right in the beginning, but that's the area where they would just take the information from your last tax return. So if we're talking FAFSA this year, 2022-23 school year, they're actually looking at probably your 2020 return versus your 2021. So they're going to take a look at that. So if you had any particular situation, let's say in 2020 or 2021, that would affect the eligibility of FAFSA. So let's say you sold a house or you had some big influx of cash that was an anomaly and it's just going to be a one-time situation. You may want to designate on a FAFSA form, or when the SAR comes back, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the process, is to signify, okay, that was an anomaly year. I don't make, $500,000 each year type of thing. This happens to be a one-time event. Then that way they can qualify you based on your regular income versus some of the anomaly things that could happen with an influx of cash, selling property, things like that. You want to get those documents together. So when you're filling out the form, you want to go to studentaid.gov. That's going to be your best friend through this process. You're going to have a FSA ID, so you can create one online. But that's going to carry you and your child throughout this college filling out form process. So each year they will ask for an FSA ID number when you log in to studentaid.gov. So if you don't have one, they're going to ask you to create one. It's going to be the same one every year, um, as your child is applying for federal aid each year. You will have that number. So it's kind of like your social security number, when you're filling out these particular forms. So if you don't have it, they'll make you create one. So once you fill out the FAFSA form from that, but also determine what your tax situation is going to be like. So if you did go through a divorce, you had a marriage filing jointly, but now you're not going to have both parents on there. Again, there's a way to signify in the process after the form comes back, the SAR, to signify, okay, now I married filing jointly for 2020. Moving forward, that's going to look differently. Is there a way to reconsider to determine grant and or scholarship and aid eligibility based on my new situation? So those are some things that you can take a look at when you're filling out the FAFSA form. But after you've completed the FAFSA form, what happens is that usually a couple of days later, you will get an SAR, which is a student aid report. And that's the number that they're going to kick out to you to say how much your student is eligible for, and then the expected family contribution. You may see something that says EFC number on there, and that's the number that they're expecting the family to contribute. Now, is that the real number that you contribute? Because sometimes it'll spit out a big number, and you're like, "There's no
That's
way
the
I'm going to
sticker.
be able to."
That's the sticker shot. What is it?
Exactly. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But based on what you put in the FAFSA form, that's what they're telling you you can afford to put into it. So that can be a combination of uh, uh, 529 plans or savings programs that you have accumulated for your child. It can be a combination of student loans, plus loans, things like that. But that's the number that you're responsible for. And then on the other side, it will show you what your child is eligible for, either through grants and or scholarships and or work study programs. For the most part, it'll have kind of a needs-based analysis. This is how much you would need to accumulate for a college education. So I use this example all the time based on where your child wants to go to school. Sometimes in state versus out of state, there's kind of the sticker price on on the college, and then there's actually the cost of what it's going to cost you for that. So for example, with my children, both of them are graduated now. One went in state in Virginia, and then one went out of state. Based on where they went, I was actually able to get more need-based aid out of state, because the difference between the cost of the tuition and room and board and all of that for out of state tend up to be a higher sticker price number, which means you have more need or more need base, versus if you have your student go in state, it's going to show you how much the price is for college education for in state, and then your EFC number. And if those numbers match, then that means you don't get any aid at all. So don't discount out of state, because it give you a little bit of a margin for needs based eligibility for aid with that versus in state. So that's just kind of an aside on what I learned throughout this process as well. So really determining the SAR, what will happen when you complete the FAFSA form is that they will ask you to put in the codes for each of the colleges that your student wants to attend or possibly attend. Hopefully you've went through this list with your child to determine which ones maybe out of state, some in state, what the prices may be, what it looks like. Because if that number does come out a little bit higher, and that child's really like, I want to go to Princeton, I want to go to Penn State or whatever, and you really are not in alignment with the numbers, you don't want to have that conversation with your child. That's another aside, outside of FAFSA. Determine, really have these conversations with your child. Is that, I want you to get a great college education, but let's be realistic. Let's see where the numbers fall, what we can do, what you can do as a combination, and then let's come up with a list of schools that you want to attend. So based on what you fill in the FAFSA, it's usually, I think it's about up to 10 codes that you can put in. So once you put in those numbers, each college will receive the SAR student aid report, and from
Okay, so I
there
just want to
they
ask
will.
that. So you
I'm
said
sorry. Hmm.
I just want to clarify. You
Yeah.
said 10 codes. The 10 codes are the codes for the schools, right?
For the school, yes.
So
Yes.
you can do up to 10 schools on the FAFSA
Hmm.
application.
Yes. So you could put that on there. And so once you've put in the code for the colleges, each of the colleges will receive a student aid report on behalf of your student or your child. And then that's how they determine your financial aid packet from there. So back to the example for me, when my youngest went to Westminster out of state in Pennsylvania, SAR came back, and then I'm sorry, the SAR went to Westminster, and then the financial aid packet came back, and this is what it said based on tuition cost, tuition, books, all of the things that are required for that. This is how much you can receive in financial aid. Now, some programs have, some colleges have their own grants and or endowments, so a lot of that was filled in as potential aid, and then you'll have a federal number either through student loans or grants from there. And then each school will have their own packet that they will send to you, and then that's when you need to sit down with your student and say, okay, this is what came out of it based on where you want to go to school as well. Let's see what aid we are getting for each of the schools before you make a determination for that. If you're going to come out of pocket a lot in particular universities, um, you have to see where you're going to supplement that from versus looking at somebody else's financial aid packet could come up with something that is either you don't have to pay out of pocket additional for your the EFC number, or they give you a little bit more aid for that.
So,
And then, yeah, go ahead.
so I know we're talking to a lot of the parents out there whose student are current seniors.
Hmm.
So they'll be filling out the FAFSA for the 2023-24 student school year.
Hmm.
Now, what if the parent is filling out a form for their senior and they also have a another child in college at the same time?
Hmm. Yeah, now I guess that's kind of the beauty of it as well. So if you have two children and or three and college at the same time, they actually look at that EFC number quite differently because it also depends. It looks at dependents. So if you have, let's say, three dependents and two of those are in college, they take that into consideration when you're filling out your FAFSA form. So it does actually give you a little bit more eligibility for aid if you have two students in school at the same time and their dependents. So that's the way they would look at it on the FAFSA form.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So where were we? We were talking about EFC numbers.
Hmm.
Okay. So based on that, really sitting down with your child to determine, how much aid that they're going to get for the school that they want to attend for that, and then also see what the combination is of grants and or student loans. I have some clients that like, hey, I know they put on the aid packet that this is a certain amount of loans that the student can get. This is a certain amount of loans that the parent could get. I don't want to have my student take out any loans. That that would subtract what the aid would be. So let's say I believe they may have raised it, but it's about 5,500 that the student is allowed to take out per year on that. It's a little bit higher as you go to your senior year in college and your graduate students. So the numbers work out a little bit differently. But they don't want the burden to be on the student. So that's why they put a lot more aid on the plus loan on the parents' side of it. So the
I don't like
start,
that part.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I'm dealing with that now.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the child is only allowed 5,500 per year. So basically, 2,500, 2,750 per semester on that. So some parents, that clients that I have, they're like, I really don't want my student to have student loans. They will basically not take the 5,500 for that. So then that way, then also at that point, you have to come up with an additional 5,500 a year on your side of the equation if you're not going to take the student loans that are available in the financial aid packet. So you don't have to take all of it. That's the thing about the packet. When you get it, you can basically go through, it's going to be a promissory note to say I accept the package as is, or you can deduct some things if you didn't want the student loan part of it, or if you didn't want the plus loan part of it. You can take what's available and then just know that whatever number that they have that's going to be for the cost of the college, you need to come out of pocket somewhere. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take the whole financial aid packet. And then, again, depending on what type of school your child goes to, if you're going to a larger state university, maybe this may not work. But when my child went to school, it was a little bit, it was out of state and it was a smaller school. I was like best buddies with the financial aid officer there, to say what's available. Because sometimes, when your child turns, I have to kind of give this caveat, when your child turns 18, parents, whoever parents are listening, the university doesn't have to communicate with parents unless the child signs a waiver that says they can speak with you about it. Okay, which is really nuts. So what 18-year-old really needs to have that much power? But
Exactly.
nonetheless, they get information sometimes. This is what I found out for my child at that university that he attended, he graduated from, is that they would give at the end of each semester. So if some people may not have come back for the second semester, then that means there's more money in the coffers for the endowment or the grants. So they basically say, hey, this is available. And so they send it to the student, and then the student doesn't look at their email, and there's additional funds that they can have access to that you're not aware of. So if anything, speak with your child and say, hey, let me know what's going on. Can you give me permission to take a look at this or receive information on your behalf as well, because you may miss some of those opportunities. But if you are in a smaller situation like I was in, really you could speak with the financial aid officer and ask, are there additional funds? You can it's kind of a negotiation. So if you have the FAFSA form, you have the SAR, you get the financial aid packet from the school, and you're really like, I really don't like that EFC number so much, you can, kind of petition to say, are there additional funds at the university that are available through alumni associations, endowments, additional grant programs, and see if you can work a little bit, massage the numbers a little bit more for
Yeah.
that.
And
So that helps.
I did that with my daughter. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
she was accepted to a Division 3 school. She was playing basketball,
Hmm.
and they gave me that number, and I was like, she's
Mm-mm.
not going there. It's not going to work. So the coach actually um, asked me to speak to the financial aid office. So I
Yeah,
went, and wow, they found money.
exactly. They will find
So
you money.
they knew how to find. I found grant, and it was a lot of grants because she was out of
Hmm.
state. It was
Yep.
Division 3, so
Hmm.
of course there's no scholarship, but they had a lot of grants.
Yeah.
Alumni, um, being out of state was part of the grant money that we received. So it's
Hmm.
interesting once you take that extra a step to have that conversation. So it's like, don't be afraid to let your situation be known so that
Hmm.
you can you can advocate for yourself, advocate for your child, advocate for your pocket.
I think you're definitely advocating for your pocket much more so than anything. But I mean, that's the same situation, Lisa, that my child was in. It was Division 3, football first, and then eventually track. But they will find dollars, for your student, that you do have to advocate and say, what's available for them. They're, like you said, it's not called, scholarships per se, but there's grants, there's like I said, alumni programs that contribute to the university where dollars come into play at some point. So really going back to say, and I want to also stress to parents, once you get that number and you get your child into a school, you're going to have to fill out the FAFSA each year. But don't say, it's not a set it and forget it. You can always go back and kind of renegotiate. It's like, okay, my situation's different. Things are happening here. You can reallocate some of your resources, maybe your savings programs, having your parents or grandparents put money in different places where it's not in the child's name. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but it's a planning process. The FAFSA is the first step in the process, but it looks at all of your assets. So as a financial advisor, what I do with my clients is, are there ways to reposition your assets where you look less attractive, let's say, on the FAFSA, so you're able to get a little bit more aid as well. But it is a strategy and it's a process that you have to start a little bit earlier on. Not to say that
How
you
much
can't
early?
do it, but if you get your child into school and you're not satisfied that freshman year, there are strategies you can use throughout their college. They can go back and apply for additional scholarships. They can do, a variety of different things. Don't just think, okay, this is the way it's going to be, and then, fill out the FAFSA each year and just, look at that EFC number each year and go, there's nothing I can do about it. Work with a professional to see if there's ways that you can do better with the process.
So you mentioned early, right?
Mhm.
And I think so. How early should a parent come to someone like your financial advisor
Mhm.
seeking assistance on preparing for college?
Yeah. The sooner the better. I have started, as early as probably sophomore year, freshman year, sophomore year in high school, really taking a look at, especially, parents who may have larger incomes and they may not be eligible for financial aid. So then there's a strategy to kind of reposition assets and do things differently. Because depending on the look back on the FAFSA form, you got to work strategically. So you may need to have a couple of years in the process to do those sort of strategies. So
Especially
as
since
early as freshman year, sophomore year in high school, you're really looking at this whole college plan. You can't fill out the FAFSA form until October 1st of the year before, their senior year before college. But if you want to look at some more how to make yourself more attractive before you fill out the FAFSA, it's a strategy you may need a couple of years to kind of work through with an advisor.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's I think that is a real nugget right there.
Hmm.
Because a lot of parents, and I was one of them, we
Hmm.
don't think about the money portion until
Yes,
it's right upon us.
exactly. Yeah. And then that's what I was, having talking about this conversation is that, all of a sudden you kid is going to school and then they're going, hey, I got into Penn State. And then you're like, whoa, how do I pay for this now? So you don't want to be in that conversation with your child to tell them, no, we can't do Penn State unless you prepared for it. So have these conversations. If it's not going to be that, have realistic expectations for your child to say, okay, these are kind of the top 4 or 5 that are in our price range, so to speak. Be open and honest, be transparent with your child, and know that, and tell them college is a commitment to you, but it's also a commitment to us because we have to help pay for it. And unless you are transparent with your student or I'm sorry, your child, they can come out of the blue and want to go any place. And if you can't afford just
Hawaii.
every place, then you're gonna be on the hook for the long term, really paying out of the butt for a lot of plus loans or trying
Mhm.
to figure it out if you haven't prepared properly.
Yeah, because there's a lot of students out there, they want to go far away. I want to go to
Exactly.
University of Hawaii because I want to be
Yeah.
able to enjoy the beach or the good
Yeah.
weather. Um,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, things like that, and you're like, okay, now how is this going to work? Or they get into an Ivy, which, and I'm not discounting Ivies, but you have to have a game plan to get it. Or you're going to get scholarship because we're talking more, closer to the last time I saw $60,000 a year for a Princeton or Yale, and that's basically times four, $240,000 for an undergraduate college education.
Right.
Is that going to be realistic for you unless there are scholarships involved, unless you've saved properly in a 529 or some other savings programs, or they get, more aid through grants or things like that. And then the rest you have to pay out of pocket through plus loans and things like that. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're having that conversation where, oops, all the surprise, now we have to try to pay for it. And I had a situation like that. I had actually a client who came to me, who became a client because they were like, okay, my child got into Princeton, now what do I do? And I'm like, well, you should have came and talked to me 2 years ago. But nonetheless, we're working through some programs, to try to figure out how to do that. But you don't want to have those nasty surprises.
Right. So for this is another thing, right?
Hmm.
My message yesterday was it's October 1st,
Hmm.
especially those parents of seniors who are applying for college for the 2023-24 school year.
Hmm.
Oh, my tip was apply today,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Fill out the form today.
Correct.
Now, the on the FAFSA or the student aid website, it talks about you have $112 billion of aid out there.
Hmm.
My thing is, you also have, excuse me, many students, parents, families applying for aid.
Hmm.
Could the money run out? And why is it important to apply early?
Hmm. And that's the thing, Lisa. Apply early because there is a limited amount of resources. So somebody who's straight out the gate does October 1st, and then the person who waits until May 1st, the dollars are basically dwindling at that point. So you want to do it fast and early as humanly possible. Now that they've moved it up to October 1st, before it was January 1st, and I'll never know why it was because nobody had their tax situation done before then. But nonetheless, they moved it up to October 1st. So try to do it as early as possible because those dollars do go away at some point in time. So the sooner the better, because then that way when you do the SAR and you get the financial aid packet, it may be a little bit more meatier than if you fill it out in May 1st, and then there's maybe opportunities that have been given away already, or the dollars are not there.
Okay, so another question along with the early part.
Mm-hmm.
So I am actually, because I'm thinking about a student I am coaching right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in the process of writing her essay. So she's not even thinking about, she does have a list of schools, but she doesn't really, I know her family isn't thinking about FAFSA at this moment
Mm-hmm.
because you haven't applied to any schools. So if you have not applied to any schools just yet, should you wait until you apply, or should you still, if you have um, your choices, should
Mm-hmm.
you apply and then, in the next couple of weeks, turn in your Common App with your application with
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you fill out the FAFSA form, like I said before, you're allowed to put in the codes for the colleges. But if you don't have any there, maybe you have one. I think you have to have at least one when you do it. If you don't have all of them, you can always go back. Once you have the student aid report, you can go back and you add codes, and then that report will be sent to the school of your choice at that point, and then they'll produce the packet for you, and then they'll send it to you. So as long as you have at least one when you're filling out the FAFSA form, you can always go back and you can have the report sent to the schools that you want a little bit later on. But if you do it early, at least have at least one that you want to send it to, and then you can go back and add others later.
okay, so that 10 number.
Hmm.
What about those students who have applied to about 15 schools?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. On that, I think 10 initially on that first one, but if you could always, like I said, go back and say, okay, now I want to add that. I want, Princeton to receive one. I want somebody. So at that point, you don't have to. I'm just saying initially when you do the FAFSA, I think they'll allow it, those particular codes, but you can, once you have the report produced, you can always, it's just like your transcript. Say, okay, I want this, have my transcripts in here. student aid report is the same thing. I'm applying now to this school. Can you send my student aid report so they can produce the financial aid packet for that particular school for me?
Okay. So I'm just throwing out questions because I know parents will have questions. Students may even have questions. We're not seeing any questions pop in on the comments yet, but even afterwards, if anyone has questions,
Hmm.
please let us know what your questions are because Pamela is amazing. She supports Campus Bound GPS every year. Like I said, she is our resident financial advisor to answer your questions during this time. So, please use this opportunity to ask the questions. I do have another question, and I kind of mentioned this before, and it's regarding modifying your FAFSA.
Hmm.
So I have a friend who could not. She knew that she wasn't going to be watching, but she said her niece is her niece's dad is a disabled vet.
Hmm.
When they were filling out the FAFSA, they may not have filled it out the best way because they ended up owing like about $20,000
Hmm. Hmm.
out of pocket. So she thought it might have been something that might not have been right because
Hmm.
there are things that vets get that
Hmm.
normal people don't.
Yeah.
So a can a student or can a family go in and modify um, to see if the numbers don't look right, or what
Hmm.
kind of advice would you give for that?
Yeah. Once you have the student aid report, depending on what comes out of that, you can go back and you can see what numbers you put in. If you do need to make some corrections, you can go in. Now if it's related to the um, the tax return, your IRS data retrieval tool, that's going to automatically come in. But if you think there's some error on the way you answered a particular question, that's where you would go in and clarify with your student aid report and or the college, because you can put in kind of a statement. There's what am I thinking? The FAFSA there with colleges. There's a CSS where you can do a statement. So that's where you would do it if it was a particular school. For example, if with my child with Westminster, if there is a situation, and I did actually do that, is to write a separate letter, a CSS form, and they will ask for the differences on what was not represented in the original FAFSA form, so they can do an individual look at it and evaluate it that way. So you may want to do it if it's a particular school that the child wants to go to. This is the situation. This is what happened. Um, my parent is a disabled vet. Some of the circumstances, and then they may be able to evaluate it a little bit differently. But there are ways to go in and make some modifications in it. But once you get the student aid report, you can go back and say, okay, I needed to make some adjustments, or I answered the question differently. Then you can go back and have another student aid report produced for that. But you may want to also work with the school as well and do one of those special statements. It's called like a CSS form is similar to a FAFSA for usually private schools who ask for if you want aid from that. But then there are also what they call special statements. Some financial aid officers will send that to parents if there's a situation where you say, hey, I would like to explain myself more. They give you an opportunity to do that as well.
Great, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so I know I've been cutting you off asking these questions. So
No, 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 not a problem. So some of the changes, some of the things coming for the 2023-24, they are looking at increasing access to Pell Grants, more students based on kind of the family income size, or the family size and the income compared to the federal poverty level. So there are looking at the big changes that I'm going through is kind of what's coming down the pike for 23-24. Increase access to Pell Grants. Also, increase income protection levels. So looking at kind of the student's income level, or the student assets versus the parents' assets. They want to basically protect more income for the parents. So parents are not so much on the hook for trying to get all of these plus loans with that. So
A little
that's
too late for
something that's
me,
big.
huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, a little late. I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, because I have, both of my kids are already graduated as well. And I was like, why couldn't they thought of these things before?
Exactly.
But yes, so people who are, so the Pell Grants, and then also the income protection. And then the big thing that's coming is really the replacement of the EFC number. So what the is being replaced to something that they're going to call student aid index down the pike. So what's going to happen is that they're going to remove the number of college students in college from a single family from a calculation, while streamlining eligibility for Pell Grants. So they're going to look at the calculating the EFC number a little bit different and call it a student aid index. But I heard that's supposed to impact giving students a little bit more eligibility for aid based on the way they calculate that EFC number. So I think that'll be a huge one difference that's coming down for that. Student index, the increase in for the Pell Grants that are available for that, and then also the income protection for parents as well. So they're trying, like I said, we have to kind of figure out, we went through, the messiness of FAFSA. What they're trying to do is streamline it a little bit more, make it a little more simplified, and also do some more increases where maybe parents aren't on the hook for so much, and then having some protection of your income, but also giving availability for more grant programs for people who may need it more. And then I think the big one, like I said before, is that EFC number has always confused the heck out of me. I'm a financial advisor, but even as a parent, that number would come out, and like you said, at least as the sticker shock, like, wait a minute, I know I'm making some good money, but hey,
Me to
where are you
pay
coming up with this number? Where are you
How
coming
did
up
you
with
get
this
this?
number? How are you calculating this number? So that's always been a confusion. So hopefully the student aid index and the calculations are a little bit different when they come up with that.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is we want our students to, for the most part, try to, at best, and I'm adding all these additional words,
Mhm.
to come out of their career educational process
Yeah,
debt free, or as close
exactly.
to debt
Or
free
close to debt free as possible.
as
Yeah, you don't
possible.
want to have them straddle, because economically, that kind of hinders the whole economic process. If you have a lot of people that are out here straddled with student loan debt, they're not able to buy their first home, and they're not able to, it's a whole economic strain that is really, that's the whole thing with the student loan forgiveness program, is that allowing people to participate a little bit more economically without having a whole lot of debt, because that affects the overall, not just people's personal economy, but it affects the whole economy as well.
And I'll just put a plug out there for those folks who are eligible to participate in any of the loan forgiveness programs. Time is running out.
Hmm.
So, again, apply today.
Apply today. So with the the main deadline people have to be concerned about, of course, is if you are eligible for any public service loan forgiveness. That's kind of the end of this month, October 31st, for that. So if you think you're eligible, or even if you don't think you're eligible, just go to the studentaid.gov. That's going to be your best friend throughout this whole thing, FAFSA, as well as the loan forgiveness program. Is that if you don't think you qualify, go in. There's a way to put in your employer's EIN number, and it'll give you a list of employers that are eligible for that. And then you want to go through and apply. That is October 31st for that one. In terms of the student loan forgiveness with the 10,000, it is based on income, so you have to see where you fall with that. If you are eligible for it, I would, you have to go to studentaid.gov, make sure you have that FSA number, because like I said, that's kind of your ID number when you're dealing with any federal aid programs. They will, and you filed your tax returns, they will let you know if you're eligible for the forgiveness, and then they will notify you. You want to make sure your address is updated, your email address, any contact information, because they'll look at what the tax return looks like, and then they'll notify you via text or email that you're eligible for the forgiveness, and then it's basically taken care of for you, so you don't have to do anything. Everybody else would probably have to go apply for that, and you have basically until December 31st of next year to do that program, but you don't want to sit on it either. So you want to, fast and furious, go and apply for what you need to. So don't sit on that one. But the main one you really need to, if you think you are eligible for the Public Loan Service Forgiveness Program, October 31st is your deadline. So get to studentaid.gov to find out and apply as soon as possible.
Well, thank you. This has been as always, a great conversation, a wealth of information, and I know there's probably a lot more questions out there that have not been asked. So again, we are monitoring the comments during these 31 days in
Yes.
October. This is our community service endeavor to give back as best we can. So please take advantage of your. Please take advantage of de-stressing yourself, creating less anxiety in your life, and allowing experts to provide some guidance for you. So all I can say at this point is, Pamela, thank you.
Thank you for having me once again. But if anybody has any particular questions, people can find me on social media. I'm at Jackson Sam's Wealth on Facebook and on Instagram. Twitter would be Jackson Sam's WS. That's for Wealth Strategies. So if you want to, basically get at me with any particular personal questions, you can always follow me on that. And then, my website is jacksonsams.com. You can always request more information. I have a lot of information on there about college planning and student loans and a variety of different topics that you can take a look at as well.
And I do want to say, so this live stream will be still up for a little while.
Mhm.
We are streaming on my personal Facebook page, Campus Bound GPS's Facebook page. We are on YouTube. And this year, for the first time, and I'm so excited, we are on LinkedIn.
Yay!
So, you know, we're trying to spread the knowledge. So
Mhm.
you have lots of resources, lots of places to go to get the information. So just as we're giving it to you, take a moment and ask a question. Do not be afraid to ask questions, because that's what we're here for.
Mhm.
So on that note, this has been amazing. I love this time of year. I get
Mhm.
really excited. This is my passion. I
I
really
know, it is, and it's fun. That's why I come back year after year as well, because it is really good to impart this type of knowledge, because this is like you said, try to de-stress the process with parents, because they see these deadlines and then they're like, what do I need to do? So I do commend you as well for offering a tip a day in October for people, for parents and students who are going through this process, because it does make a difference.
thank you. So we're ending day 2. We'll have another guest tomorrow, and I am super excited. Parents, we are really focusing on you this year. I get a lot of questions about parent. What do I do as a parent? So I do have a parent coming on tomorrow. I will put her information out there, and we will see what she will be talking about. So Pamela, again, thank you for being here
Thank
tonight.
you.
And those of you who are watching, stay tuned for tomorrow. This is Lisa Marie Aird with Campus Bound GPS, October Tips, saying goodbye for now.
Bye bye.